I was halfway through a plate of ribs when my mother-in-law stood up with her wine glass like she was about to give a damn wedding toast. It was a family reunion. Her backyard in Indiana, folding chairs, plastic tablecloths, bug spray on the table. I'd just refilled my drink when I heard her say it, loud and clear. Now, this is the son-in-law who's always been there for us. She pointed straight at Todd. Todd, the guy married to my wife's younger sister. Tall, broad-shouldered, always wearing some college football shirt, even though he graduated 2 decades ago. He raised his glass and smirked like he just got knighted. Then Joan turned to me, didn't even say my name. And the other one? He's never lifted a finger. She laughed. Some of the cousins laughed. My wife Kayla didn't move, didn't look at me, didn't say a single word. Just sipped her wine and kept her face blank, like it had nothing to do with her. I sat there with barbecue sauce on my hands, sweat running down my back, and 9 years' worth of bank transfers flashing through my head. Mortgage payments, car repairs, a new damn roof, their prescriptions, their furnace, their broken water heater last winter when Todd was in Florida golfing. I didn't argue, I didn't yell, I didn't make a scene. I stood up, set my plate down, nodded toward the table, and walked straight to my car. Didn't say a word. I think someone called after me, but I couldn't hear over the buzzing in my ears. I started the engine, backed out slow, and drove off. Didn't look in the rear view, didn't check my phone. Quick note, before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. I met Kayla when we were both 28. I was working IT for the city. She was managing events at a hotel downtown. She had this energy, always moving, always talking, the kind of person who filled a room just by walking into it. I like that. I came from a quiet house, only child. My parents passed within a year of each other before I turned 25. Holidays were just me and a microwave dinner for a while, Ray. So when Kayla introduced me to her big, chaotic, constantly in your business family, I didn't know what to do with it. They hugged too much, talked over each other, told stories I couldn't follow. It was overwhelming, but it felt warm. I wanted to belong. That should have been the first red flag. Her mom, Joan, was all smiles and casseroles on the surface, but I caught on pretty quick. Polite but sharp underneath. She'd say stuff like, "Oh, Darren, you're so quiet. I guess you don't have much to say," or "You work with computers? I don't know how people sit still all day." Her dad, Roy, barely said a word unless someone brought up football or the weather. And when they did, suddenly he had opinions for hours. Then there was Todd. Todd was already married to Kayla's sister, Erica. He walked in like he owned the place. Big handshake, booming voice, everyone calling him Champ like it was his legal name. Played D2 college ball. Now sells insurance, drives a leased Audi, probably practiced his laugh in the mirror. The guy could show up late with gas station donuts, and they'd act like he performed surgery on a dog in the parking lot. I stayed in the background, helped with dishes, carried folding tables, listened more than I talked. At first, I figured it was just growing pains. They'd warm up to me eventually. But they never really did. I was Kayla's husband. That was it. Not part of the inner circle. Not golden boy material. Then came the crash in 2008. Roy got laid off from his sales job. Joan's boutique started bleeding money. They didn't ask for help, but it was obvious. They were circling the drain. Utilities getting shut off. Car in the shop for weeks. Skipping trips they used to take every summer. Todd, he gave him advice. "You guys gotta tighten up," he said, while sipping a $6 beer at a cookout. Me? I logged into my bank account and set up an automatic transfer. $1,500. Straight to their checking. Every month. No questions asked. I didn't say a word to Kayla. I just did it. She found out a few months later when she checked our statements. "Is this real?" she asked one night, holding her phone. "You've been sending money to my parents?" "They need help," I said. "I can swing it for a while. It's just a bridge." "A bridge to what?" "To them not drowning." She stared at me for a second, then just nodded. Didn't say thank you, didn't say much of anything. I think in her mind, that's what husbands do. They carry weight quietly, keep things afloat. I didn't mind at first, but that bridge? It turned into a damn overpass. When Roy's truck broke down, I paid for the new transmission. When Joan needed dental work, I covered that too. Nobody ever asked where the money came from. Nobody ever asked if it was okay. They just took it. Like it was normal, like I owed it. And Kayla, she never once pushed back. She'd say, "It means a lot to them," or they'd never ask if they weren't desperate, or worse, "Todd helps too, you know." Yeah, Todd helps by showing up with a cheese tray and reminding everyone how amazing he is. I kept the lights on, but he got the spotlight, and the longer it went on, the more invisible I became. It didn't matter what I did. Todd always won the damn popularity contest. Me? I'd be the guy in the kitchen fixing their leaking faucet or out back changing the filter in their furnace. I once drove across town in the middle of a snowstorm because their pipes were making a weird noise. No applause for that. No clapping when I shoveled their driveway at 6 a.m., so Joan could get to her dumb boutique in time to unlock the door. But Todd once made a spreadsheet. A single damn spreadsheet to help them track credit card payments. Joan brought it up 3 times that Thanksgiving, called it a lifesaver, said it really helped us see things more clearly. Todd's so good with numbers. The worst part wasn't even them. It was Kayla. She never defended me. Never once stepped in and said, "Hey, Darren's been footing half your life for almost a decade." She just smiled through it. Maybe part of her liked the role, being the quiet, dependable daughter, the one who brought stability. I guess she thought my silence meant I was fine with it. I wasn't. They'd send us thank you cards around Christmas. One time, we got a fruit basket with a note that said, "To our sweet daughter and her wonderful family." Not a word about the mortgage I'd just covered 2 weeks earlier. Joan would write, "We're so lucky to have you and Todd in our lives." Not me. You and Todd. I didn't expect a damn parade, but you'd think someone would say, "Hey, thanks for making sure we didn't lose the house." Instead, I got labeled distant. I worked long hours to keep everything afloat, and that made me the cold one, the one who wasn't around enough. Never mind that I was the only reason Roy and Joan still had a house to host parties in. Then one Sunday afternoon, I went over to fix a loose step on their deck. I brought my own tools, drove 45 minutes, didn't even ask for gas money. I was on my knees with a drill in my hand when I heard Joan talking to her neighbor over the fence. She said, "Darren's never around. Thank God for Todd. He's like our real son." I froze. That one hit different. Not because it was true, but because it felt honest. That's how she saw me. Not as family, not even as a person, really. Just some guy her daughter married who happened to be useful now and then. Todd was the golden boy. I was the ghost in the background. I didn't say anything. Just finished the step, packed my drill, and left without going inside. That night I told Kayla what I'd heard. She didn't deny it. She just sighed and said, "That's how she is. You know she doesn't mean it." But she did mean it, and Kayla knew that. That was the beginning of the shift for me, when it stopped being tolerable, when I started to realize I wasn't part of that family. I was just funding it. By the time that reunion rolled around, I was already halfway out the door in my head. I told Kayla a week earlier, flat out. I was tired of being treated like the backup plan, tired of biting my tongue every time her mom took a shot at me. I said, "I'll show up, but don't expect me to pretend anymore." She didn't argue, just nodded like she'd heard it all before. We drove down to Roy and Joan's place in Lafayette on a Thursday. She stayed at the house. I booked a motel. I told her, "I need space from your mom," and I meant it. Kayla didn't love that, but she didn't fight it either. Friday morning, I was the first one at the house. Hauled tables out of the shed, unfolded chairs, wiped down coolers, strung up lights in the backyard. Roy barely looked at me. Joan walked right past me, sipping her iced tea like I was invisible. Still, I brought steaks. Real ones, from a butcher in Chicago. Not the cheap stuff. I spent 2 hours grilling, flipping meat, running back and forth between the kitchen and the yard, while everyone else stood around with paper plates and drinks in hand. Todd showed up late, brand new polo shirt, hair slicked back like he'd just stepped off a golf course. He was holding a cheese tray and a six-pack, and the second he walked in, the clapping started. "You made it," Joan said, kissing his cheek like the prodigal son had returned. "You didn't have to bring all this," someone else said. I watched him drop the plastic-wrapped cheese on the counter and shrug like it was nothing. He smiled at me, same smug little grin he always gave, like we both knew who was really running the show. I didn't say a word, just went back to the grill. By dusk, the lights were glowing, music playing, drinks flowing. Everyone gathered in the yard. I was wiping down the table when Joan stood up with her wine glass raised. "I just want to say something," she said, wobbling a bit in her wedge sandals. Everyone turned toward her. Todd straightened up like he knew what was coming. "This man here," she said, reaching out to touch Todd's arm, "has been our rock, our support, the one we could always count on. He's family in every sense of the word." People nodded, a few even clapped. Todd raised his glass like a hero. And then she turned to me, didn't even point, just tilted her head and said, "And the other one? He's never lifted a finger." It went quiet. All I could hear was the faint buzz of those string lights overhead and the sound of my own pulse in my ears. I didn't look at Kayla, didn't look at anyone. I just set the dish towel on the table, turned around, and walked, across the yard, past the cooler. Through the gate, I got in my car and left. No slamming doors, no final words, just done. By the time I pulled into the motel parking lot, I had 8 voicemails waiting. Kayla left one. Her voice was shaky, trying to walk that line between apology and excuse. I didn't know she was going to say that. I should have said something. "Can we just talk?" 3 more were from her cousins, all variations of, "Hey man, you okay?" and "Don't blow this out of proportion." One was from Todd. He said, "Look, Darren, I get that was uncomfortable, but let's not make this a big deal. It's just family stuff. Let it go." Let it go? I turned off my phone and tossed it on the nightstand. Sat on the edge of the bed, staring at that cheap floral carpet like it had answers. I felt hollow, not mad, not sad, just scraped clean. That night, I didn't eat. Didn't watch TV. I laid there in that stiff motel bed with the AC humming too loud, staring at the ceiling like it might shift. Morning came. I packed up, checked out, and drove home in silence. 4 hours, no music, no calls. Kayla didn't call until close to dinner. I was in the kitchen, heating up leftovers, when her name lit up on the screen. She said, "Are you ready to talk?" I didn't answer her question. I just emailed her a spreadsheet. 9 years, $1,500 a month, itemized, bank records, transfers, totals. 162, even. No message, no comments, just the math. I didn't hear anything back that night. 2 days later, I got a call from Aunt Linda. She's the only one on that side who ever treated me like a human being. She said, "I had no idea. Joan always made it sound like Todd was the one helping them." I said, "Of course she did." Kayla came back to the house that evening. She looked like hell, tired, puffy eyes, hair in a bun. She didn't try to hug me, just sat on the couch across from me, quiet. I didn't yell, didn't accuse. I said, "You never had my back." She started crying. I didn't. There was nothing left in the tank, no anger to pour out, no speech to give. I'd already said it, in numbers, in action, in walking out of that backyard and not turning around. She wiped her face and said, "I didn't know how bad it felt for you." I said, "That's the problem. You didn't want to know." She sat there for a while after that, just looking down at her hands. I let the silence do the work. A week later, Joan called me. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something told me to pick up. Her voice was stiff, like she'd rehearsed it. "I think we should all talk, as a family." I said, "Fine, but not at your house." There was a pause. Then, "Okay. Where?" I picked a diner halfway between us. Old place, vinyl booths, bottomless coffee, neutral ground. I wanted it public, no scenes. We met on a Tuesday afternoon, Joan, Roy, Kayla, and me. I got there early and ordered a black coffee. Sat at the corner booth with a manila folder on the table. They walked in together. Joan was in some floral cardigan. Roy looked like he just got off the lawnmower. Kayla didn't meet my eyes. They sat down. Nobody said anything for a minute. I opened the folder and pulled out the papers. Bank statements, transfer records, all of it. I laid them out like a dealer with bad cards. "This is what I've been doing since 2009, I said. "You kept your house because of me." Joan blinked, looked at the first page, then the next. Her face tightened, but she didn't touch the papers. "Why wouldn't you say something?" she asked. "You never told us. You can't expect credit for something you kept secret." "I wasn't looking for credit," I said. "I just didn't expect to get treated like a ghost at your table after carrying your mortgage for almost a decade." She crossed her arms. "You acted like it was your choice. It was, until it wasn't." Roy hadn't said a word. He just stared at the laminated menu like it was going to change. Kayla cleared her throat. "Mom, I didn't know how deep it went either. But Darren's right. You and Dad, you've treated him like an outsider this whole time." Joan's face turned red. Excuse me? Kayla didn't back down, for once. You toast Todd like he built the house with his bare hands. Darren literally paid for it. Joan laughed once, bitter. Todd's been present. He's family. He's popular, I said. Sure, but that's not the same as showing up. She looked at me with that same pinch smile she always used when she was losing ground. We never asked for a cent. No, I said. You just let me give it, month after month, and acted like it was owed. Roy finally spoke. It helped, I won't lie. That was it. 2 words, no apology, just confirmation. I leaned back. Well, that's over. Joan sat up straighter. You're breaking up the family over a grudge? I laughed. Lady, you broke it the minute you pointed your glass at Todd and called me useless in front of 30 people. The waitress came over and nobody ordered a thing. She filled my coffee and we all sat there in silence, the way people do when it's finally clear the party's over. A month after that diner meeting, they listed the house. 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, charming yard, according to the listing. No mention of the invisible son-in-law who kept the lights on. They couldn't swing the mortgage without me, plain and simple. They sold fast, moved into a condo 2 towns over. Smaller place, 1-car garage, 0 pride. Todd, still the favorite. Still got the hugs, the inside jokes, the seat at the head of the table during Sunday lunch. But now, he looked different around me. Couldn't hold eye contact. Couldn't joke the same way. Probably felt the heat knowing I'd carried his damn reputation for years. Kayla and I were on thin ice. Some days we didn't speak at all. Other days we said too much, too fast, and it all came out wrong. One night she asked if I'd go to counseling with her. I said, only if it's honest this time. No more acting like things are fine just because we smile in front of your family. She nodded. No secrets, no sugarcoating. I said, and no more playing both sides. We found a therapist not far from the house. Neutral lady, quiet voice, didn't take sides. First session, I sat stiff in that little room, arms crossed, just waiting to hear how everything was my fault. But it didn't go that way. Kayla admitted more than I expected. Said she liked being the good daughter, the dependable one. Said it made her feel needed. Said when I stepped up financially, it was easy to just let me be the background. I said, you didn't just let me be the background. You kept me there. She looked down, wiped her face, nodded. I told her, I felt like a wallet with legs, like I was only valuable when I was swiping the card, and when the card stopped, so did the respect. She didn't deny it. We did 3 more sessions after that. Then we stopped. She stayed with her sister for a while, said she needed space. I didn't argue. I didn't chase her either. After Kayla moved out, I stopped waiting for the phone to ring. I started focusing on my own damn life. Took a solo trip out to Colorado, rented a cabin outside Gunnison. Just me, a cooler full of beer, and a borrowed fishing rod. I didn't answer a single call the whole week. Didn't explain myself to anyone. Caught 3 trout, burned 1 over the fire, and sat in silence watching the water move like it didn't owe anyone a thing. When I got back, I packed up the old house. Too many memories tied to those walls, and none of them good lately. Found a smaller place outside Bloomington. 2 bedrooms, no guest room, no more space for freeloaders. I paid off the rest of my truck in one go. The same day, I called the bank and shut down the transfer I'd been sending to Roy and Joan for 9 years. That $1,500, started putting it toward things that made sense. Stocks, savings, tools for projects I never had time for. First time in a long time, I didn't feel drained after paying bills. Kayla reached out here and there, a text on my birthday, a thinking of you when her aunt had surgery. We met for lunch once, someplace halfway, neutral ground. It was civil, surface-level stuff. No talk about us, no blame, no closure. Just 2 people sitting across from each other like strangers who used to share a bed. She looked lighter somehow, but distant. I was fine with that. I didn't need drama. I needed peace. Christmas came. Her parents sent a card. Wishing you joy this season, it said, printed. No handwriting, no apology. Just fake cheer on thick paper. I tossed it in the trash without opening the envelope all the way. A few of Kayla's relatives started reaching out after that. One of her cousins left me a voicemail. I don't know the full story, but people are saying you just up and left. Yeah, that's one way to put it. Some started calling me the one who walked away, like I abandoned something sacred, Like, I didn't hold that whole damn family together longer than I should have. I didn't correct them. Let them wonder. Let them sit with their half story and fill in the blanks however they wanted. I wasn't bitter. I was done. There's a difference. A couple weeks after Christmas, I ran into my cousin Leo at the hardware store. We hadn't talked since high school, just one of those drifted connections. He spotted me in the parking lot, shouted my name, and before I knew it, we were catching up over coffee in the back of his pickup. Turned out he'd been running a little side hustle, buying broken lawnmowers, pressure washers, anything with a motor, and flipping them on weekends. Said he could use an extra set of hands. I had time. I had tools. I said sure. Every Saturday morning, we'd meet in his garage, take stuff apart, clean carburetors, sharpen blades, drink bad coffee. It was quiet work. Simple. You fix something, you sell it, you move on. Felt like the first thing in years that actually made sense. One night, after a long day and a couple beers, I told him the whole story. Joan, Todd, the money, Kayla, the toast, everything. He didn't interrupt once. When I finished, he shook his head slow and said, "You ever think they treated you that way because they knew they could?" By spring, I had my footing again. I joined a local vets group, just a handful of guys who got together once a week to talk, fish, share tools, whatever. No small talk, no pity. Just men trying to move forward. I picked up woodworking again. Started small, cutting boards, birdhouses, then benches, coffee tables. There was something about shaping raw wood into something useful that grounded me. I started sleeping through the night, ate real food, laughed more. Kayla and I finalized the separation that May. No lawyers, no drama, just paperwork and signatures. She came over one afternoon to grab the last of her things. We didn't talk much, just loaded her boxes into the back of her car. Before she left, she stood by the driver's door, holding the keys like she was waiting for something. I said it before she could. "I don't hate you." She nodded. "I know. But I'm done trying to earn a spot in a family that never wanted me." She didn't argue. She just said, "I hope you find something better." And this time, I believe she meant it. 1 year to the day after Joan raised that glass, I was sitting on my porch, drinking coffee, watching the sun crawl over the front yard. There was a card in the mailbox from my niece, Kayla's side, the only one from that family who ever reached out without an angle. I opened it, expecting another generic message, but inside, in her handwriting, it said, "Uncle Darren, I don't know the whole story, but I know you helped my grandparents. Thank you." That was it. No lecture, no defense, just that. I sat there holding it, coffee cooling in my hand, and felt more seen in those 2 sentences than I ever did in 9 years of birthday parties and backyard cookouts. That one card wiped out a decade of fake smiles, hollow thank yous, and backhanded compliments. I didn't go to the reunion that year, didn't send a message, didn't ask how it went, and I didn't feel guilty about it either. I spent the weekend building a cedar bench for the front yard, took my time with it, cut the boards clean, sanded every edge, sealed it twice. Not for show, just because it felt good to build something solid with my own hands. Leo came by with steaks, we grilled, put music on the speaker, and didn't say a single word about family. We talked about engines, fishing, the lawnmower he sold on Facebook for double what it was worth. It was peace. People ask sometimes if I'd do it all again, if I regret any of it. I never have a straight answer. I did what I thought was right. I stayed too quiet, too long. But when it counted, I walked away with my dignity. That night at the reunion, that toast, she thought she was humiliating me, but she gave me something better. She gave me freedom. So, yeah, I lifted a finger. I lifted a whole damn mortgage. Then I lifted myself out of that mess.